So I find this to be an unpalatable beginning to this discussion of development, economic development. I'll state that, and I'll try to keep quiet for the rest of this meeting while I hear how these numbers are manipulated in the course of this situation, this meeting, this workshop. It's not been noticed to any supervisor in terms of the materials that we're going to bring forward. I find we have quite an agenda here. I wish we had had an opportunity to comment on the agenda before it was brought forward, because it's an awful lot of material. Quite frankly, I don't see how any of it can be given justice for a period of time to be allocated to it.
Thank you, Supervisor Koufax, for your enthusiastic words.
You're welcome.
Steve Zweiback is a management consultant and I'll say principal in synectics and in general, I would say a community facilitator, someone who has put himself forward to help in community level discussions, which is a true service.
Get this to work properly. I'd like to thank the board for providing us the opportunity to come speak with you today about a project that we're all working on. It's called Mendo Futures. And I put this first slide in front of you. These slides are in your packet about 80% of the way through your packet, just so you know you do have copies of these slides for your later reference. This was our opening slide that we showed at a session that we conducted this last November 30th and December 1st. And I want to give you the background on what Mendo Futures is, what it's all about, and what we're up to, and why we're here today to talk to you about economic development. But we did hold a session for 2 days. We will see some of the people who were involved in it. I just wanted to show you some of the sponsors that gave of their time and of their resources for this volunteer activity in the community. So what I'd like to do today is just provide my part is provide a very quick overview of our history, what our visions and principles are for community development and economic development. The panelists here, which is Tim Thornhill and Mark Edwards, Kate Magruder, and I'm sure you all know all of them, will be sharing some of their perspectives from 3 of our resource-based industry groups, which is the wine industry, timber industry, and food industry. So they'll be sharing some of their thoughts about economic development from a county standpoint. And then, of course, we'd love the opportunity to open up the conversation, to have a conversation with the board about it. So these are fancy words, our superordinate goal, but you'll see some of the history in just a moment. Why we're here today as a group is that many of us saw a need to create a new way of having a conversation in the county about some of our difficult issues, whether they be economic issues or social issues. So we got together to begin to talk about how that might happen, to create a different kind of conversation and dialogue, and hopefully end up having some different results on the challenging issues that not only do we face in Mendocino County, but of course we're facing all across the United States, if not the world. But at least we could focus on Mendocino County. So the brief history is that Paul Dolan and Tim Thornhill and David Hance and Art Harwood back in July of 2006 started having this conversation, saying, you know, the way we're going about solving community issues does not seem to be working very well for us. You know, we spend years tackling issues and maybe never coming up with solutions. So out of those initial conversations, we started identifying some of who we thought were the early adopters in various categories and parts of the community, just not to limit it at that point, but just to begin to get some traction on certain issues. And we developed a set of values and a set of principles for us to start with And then we started talking, we had a very interesting conversation. And that was, what would be the issue? We don't really have a stake in a particular issue, particularly at that point in time. But there were a whole list of county-wide concerns, ranging from economic development to marijuana to the meat packages, all the issues that come before you constantly. So we did go through a long list and a conversation about where could we start so that we could begin this new way of having a conversation. And our initial area of focus was to really raise the value of our existing resources in this county in a sustainable way. Really the three E's: economic, environmental, and social equity. And that was our first area of focus. And we decided that what we would do is to convene a group of stakeholders in those three industry groups, wine, ag, and timber, to start with, to see if we could reach some agreement about what was important for these people in their industry groups, what was important that they could agree on collectively, and to begin to roll up our sleeves and work together and create solutions to a lot of the issues that are facing these industry groups, and of course our entire county. Subsequently to that, we were approached by the healthcare community of the county, particularly in the Ukiah Valley area, and we've started to work on a similar initiative with access to health care. So we have the head of the hospital, head of the clinics, and some key providers who are in discussion about working collaboratively to resolve some of the really huge challenges facing healthcare. So that's kind of where Mendo Futures is in terms of its history and bringing you up to date. Our initial planning team, people are always interested. This goes back to 2006. I've just thrown this up to give you an idea of who, I cut somebody off there at the very bottom. That's Jennifer Stewart. Sorry about that, Jennifer. To give you an idea, and of course we've extended significantly beyond this initial group of people who are working together. There are a lot of words on here. You do have a copy of it. This vision statement, as well as the principles that are going to follow, were adopted by all 50 people at our two-day conference, November 30th and December 1st. And you can see that this group is really interested not only in having a healthy community around the three E's, around local sustainability and renewable resources, but also very much concerned with creating a place where we really can work together. I mean, people have been talking about that for a long time, and it's everybody's fantasy, but we really are committed to making that happen. So, you know, I'll allow you to read that. Our operating principles are certainly as important, if not more important. The 50 people who are now working in committees and task forces, which I'm going to share with you in a few moments of what we're working on, are committed to each other to work in these ways as they focus on the particular strategies for the county within the resource-based industry groups. So our strategies need to do all of these simultaneously. They need to address the changing economic environmental equity needs of our county and our community. We need to utilize a way of communicating through our differences and really focus on where we can have common ground instead of focusing on the differences, and begin to build a base of results in the county where we can do this kind of work together. We want to build on what already exists in our county. You know, there's a lot of emphasis always about bringing other things to the county. We believe we have a lot of powerful resources to build upon, and that we can do that kind of work. We want to put the interests of our community first. We want to make decisions from the perspective of the long-term vision and plan, and not always short-term expediency. And we want to utilize our relationships and create connections across the county, one group to another, to really bring this work about. Interestingly enough, at the November 30th and December 1st workshop, we did a small process, which was in the areas of these resource industry-based groups, to identify all of the groups of people who we thought were currently working on projects related to these three areas. We thought there'd be about 10 or 15 groups of people. There were over 100 that went up on this big wall people all working on the same thing, all wanting many of the same things, but we're fractured. So part of our work is just to make the connections across all those groups. So these are